Well, hi there and welcome to another online Sunday service with us, Christ Central. My name is Nick and I'm one of the pastors here at this church, and I'm so glad that you found your way to tune in today, whether that is at one of our house churches. We have a couple of house churches that meet in Bay Ridge on Sunday mornings, and if you're at one of those house churches, I'm so glad you're there. I hope it's been an encouraging time so far. But if you're just watching online at home via our YouTube channel, I just want to say a big welcome to you as well. You can reach out to us, especially if this is your first time watching us. You can reach out to us by emailing us at hello@christcentral.nyc. But if you have any questions about our community, any questions about the announcements that I'm about to share, or this week's message as well, please email me. We'd love to connect with you, love to hear from you, hear about your story, and do our best to help you find your place in God's big story. That's our vision here at Christ Central. Before we jump into this morning's message, I have a few announcements to make. If you remember, a few weeks ago I shared just how we're looking to be a lot more social this summer, and on Friday night we went to the summer stroll, and actually this afternoon, if you're watching this on Sunday morning, we're going to be gathering at 72nd Street to watch a soccer game together. England are playing in the final of the European Championships, and we're going to be gathering together to watch that. But let me tell you about some events that are coming up next week. Next Saturday on the 17th of July, we are excited to be having a celebratory meal for Joy Redicop. If you don't know Joy, she's been part of our community for a couple of years. She's been an immense servant for Christ Central. She's done so much for us, not just as individuals but as a church. And this year she actually went to Greece for 6 months to serve with immigrants there and asylum seekers, and she's been offered a more permanent job back in Greece to be serving with YWAM there, and we're so proud that she's taken this opportunity. She is in the midst of applying for visas and fundraising, and as a church we want to have a meal with her as she looks to leave just in a couple of weeks' time, to celebrate her, to pray for her, to bless her as she goes. So the 17th of July, if you know Joy, we'd love for you to come. Just please do let us know that you're coming so we can plan for numbers. Then the next thing beyond that is next Sunday. Next Sunday we have a brilliant message I know is brewing in Seth Hoffman. Seth is going to be speaking to us, continuing our series on This is the Church by looking at mercy and justice. Seth's always been someone who I've learned a lot from in terms of what it looks like for a believer to engage in these areas, and I'm really excited about what he's going to share. Again, we have house churches meeting at 10 a.m. in Bay Ridge. If you want to know more details about those house churches, please just get in touch with us. The third announcement is that then on Monday the 26th of July, we are having our monthly prayer meeting together. We'll be at 72nd Street, and we're just going to get together, pray, worship, seek Jesus together. And again, if you want any more details about that, just reach out to us. The final announcement is this, that over August we are pausing our gatherings in terms of house churches. We're going to be running, like I said, a lot more socials, but on the 1st of August, that is a Sunday, we are going to be heading up to Coney Island, and we are going to be having a baptism party. We have one person who is going to be baptised. If you're watching and you haven't been baptised and are interested, then please feel free, as I said, to reach out to us, email us, get in touch with us, and we can talk that through with you. But for the rest of us as a church community, let's put that date in our calendar. Let's go and support this baptism, and we'll have a great time celebrating together. Okay, on to this morning's message. I am so excited this morning that we have Kunsch speaking to us for the first time. He's going to be speaking to us about something that he is very involved in, very passionate about, and I'm really, really excited. But before he jumps on, let me just remind you where we've been as a community, because we started 6 weeks ago this preaching series called This is the Church, and the goal of the series is to look at what is the church, what's its purpose, what does it mean to be part of a church. And we've had some brilliant messages. I started off by talking about how to be part of the church means to be a chosen people of God. And then Seth spoke to us about how being part of the church means being part of a body where every part matters. And then we have David Hill, who's a friend and a pastor up in Boston. He spoke to us about how being part of a church means being part of the family of God. Mothers, brothers, sisters, fathers. We are now the family of God together. And then of course after that, Amy did a great job by speaking to us about how we're now the temple of God, how the Spirit of God wants to live inside of us. And then a few weeks ago, I spoke to us about mission and how God calls us to be part of His mission to help spread the good news and the gospel of Jesus to our friends, our neighbours, our families. And then a couple of weeks ago, Reed did an incredible job speaking to us about the church's mission to be a people who worship. So it's been a great series. If you've missed any of them, log on to our YouTube channel. I'd really encourage you to check them all out. It's been a real flow and fluidity to the series, and I really feel like Jesus has been speaking to us. So without further ado though, I'm going to hand over to Brett, who's going to be speaking to us this morning, continuing our series today.
Hi, so good morning, Christ Central. My name is Brett, and I'm really excited to be speaking with you today about faith and work. So, what do you do? On the face of it, it's such a simple and common question. We've all asked it to people we are getting to know, and we've all had to answer the question ourselves. If you ask Jesus what he did, he might say he was a carpenter. Paul was a tent maker, and several of the disciples were fishermen. But we all know they did more than just their earthly jobs. So work has been around much longer than the 40-hour work week, much longer than this kind of remote work experience many of us have gone through, and its meaning has varied across time and cultures. So the concept of work shows up at the beginning of the Bible in Genesis 2:15. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it. The question comes here, why did God install work at the dawn of humanity? And really, what does work have to do with faith? And what does work have to do with God? So when you think about faith and work, it feels like kind of a separation of church and state scenario. Our work is our work, and our faith is our faith. You rarely see them overlapping, unless you work for a church. But why do we compartmentalize our faith from our work? If faith doesn't inform our work, what does? I like to argue that through our work, we are all taking care of something or someone. If you work in education, you are taking care of children's learning and well-being. If you work in hospitality, you are taking care of customers. If you work in finance, you're taking care of people's financial security. And if you are a parent, or you have an aging parent, you're taking care of them. So I'll answer the what do you do question. So I've worked in teacher recruitment and more recently school wellness for the New York City Department of Education for over 10 years now. And there's a lot our organization looks after, takes care of, and really tries to cultivate. So, I try to think of it as us planting gardens, or sprinkling seeds. So we try to plant as many gardens as possible in the form of great teachers, strong instruction, the right school environment, student advocacy, prudent investments. We have to be really wise with taxpayer money, and many other things. So all of this, all of these gardens, these seeds, we're trying to spread. It's really all towards the end goal of producing young, thriving minds from the time a student is 3, in 3K, all the way up to 12th grade, till they graduate high school. So, this work, it's hard. It is fulfilling. It really shapes kind of the way I see the world and interact with other people inside and outside of the office. And to be honest, work has burned me out sometimes. And I've heard from a lot of other people from other industries that the same is true of them. This whole COVID experience has been so challenging for so many people. And again, to really name the obvious here, having a job, is a blessing, especially during the past year and a half. But doing the work and doing it differently, has been challenging. And even pre-pandemic, you talked about work with other people, they would be talking about burnout, some of the challenges they were facing, and I'm certainly not an exception there. So I think about work, and it can really leave us feeling stressed. It can make us feel isolated. It can make us feel depleted, and there are all sorts of kind of reasons for these and other feelings. So some of us are overworked. Some are stuck in a cycle of kind of hitting numbers, only to reach for like a higher target the next quarter with less resources. Some are in unfulfilling jobs, while others need to string together multiple jobs just to make ends meet and really have little opportunity to discover what might be a good fit for them. We all must commit to a vocation, but it can be really hard to do without God and without faith. I'd also argue it can be really hard to do without a community, and especially a community, like us at Christ Central, that kind of, is really informed by faith, in all aspects of our lives. So when we try to do work without God, without faith, many challenges arise. Some things that we, honestly may not even be aware of. It can be really hard to find something that intersects. I try to think of this as, 2 points converging from this side and 2 from here. 4 things basically. It's hard to find something that intersects with kind of our strengths and our interests. What the world needs, and something that can sustainably, provide for our family's needs. It's really hard to kind of get, all of those 4 points kind of meeting in the middle, intersecting. It's tough. When we think about it, and sometimes we think about it too much, sometimes not enough. The thought that comes to mind for me is if we see work as merely a means for earthly gains, be it reputation, money, success, connections, kind of a network, intellectual stimulation, or recognition, we're often unfulfilled. During the pandemic, I read a book called The Second Mountain by David Brooks. And the author, David Brooks, talks about there being 2 mountains in life. We climb the first mountain only to find that there's another one waiting for us. So the first mountain is often self-centered, concerned with accumulation of success or wealth, or even our security. The first mountain is more concerned with what we do and what we get than how or why we do it, or even who we do it for. The second mountain is more about surrendering. Really digging deeper into finding meaning in what we're currently doing, or doing something more meaningful than what we're doing. And really important quote here that I wanted to kind of share with you. And in the book, it says, "It is a paradox that when people are finding themselves, they often have a sensation that they are letting go and surrendering themselves. You meet a person in need. At first, you just commit to help them a little. An hour a week, it's no big deal. But then you get to know and care about the person, and the hooks of commitment are set. Now you'll do what needs to be done. At this point, you just let go of the wheel. You stop asking, 'What do I want?' and start asking, 'What is life asking of me?' You respond." The German theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer argued that giving is the primary relationship between one person and another. It is the elemental desire to transform isolation and self-centeredness into connectedness and caring. A personality awakens itself by how it gives. We cultivate a relationship with God when we lean into the gifts He has given us, and when we share those gifts with others. God wants us all to find Him on the second mountain of life, where we find inner peace and fulfillment in going to where our strengths can help solve problems, It's really important, again, to think about that intersection. We're all given gifts, through God, from God. He speaks to us, many times to, he kind of calls us, a calling, right, is something that you respond to, right, as we just kind of shared in that quote. And it's responding to a need. It's responding to a problem where you are able to serve. It's where you are able to help. And, 2 weeks ago, Rhiannon spoke about the importance of worship and how surrender and sacrifice are hard, especially if we aren't in the right headspace. With worship, we aim to remember God and absorb the truth of how good He has been to us. With work, and especially if we are working while on the self-centered first mountain, remembering God, trusting God, and honoring God can be very, very difficult. It often feels, like bottom of the list, when you're on that first mountain, because it's more about the what. It's all about you. It's all about what you're getting out of this, the accumulation of wealth, success, security. And remembering God while kind of toiling away at work on a Wednesday is difficult. But it's exactly in those moments where we need to remember God and trust God. At work, we often try to play God. I am very guilty of that. And in playing God, what we're trying to do is we are trying to control the outcome of all situations. And how many of us have been there, right? We hope for the best each day, but there's just something that comes across our inbox or walks through the door that we have to respond to, and it's not what we want, and we can't control it, and it's just something that we are flustered by, and we're trying so hard to control it, and we often are only looking inside ourselves to fix it, and we rarely look to God or remember Him or trust Him in those moments. So last month in June, my team received a series of requests from schools that all began to kind of pile on top of one another. And it was kind of piling on top of what was already, what was turning into a very busy day between meetings and trainings and, doing data and other reporting. And I was feeling stressed. Really feeling like the work, would really never end. But as I came back to my inbox after yet, another meeting, I saw two simple words: thank you. And it was from a principal. And, in that moment, I was reminded of the fact that there was a human, on the other side of the email. And that she was supporting many other adults in her school building, and those adults were supporting many children. And this principal was committed to something larger than herself. She was making an ask of my team, but she was doing it not for her. She was doing it for her school. She was doing it for her community. And she was doing this, in really the home stretch of the school year. And, I kind of felt like we were doing that, together. We both were, looking toward the end of the school year after what had been one of the hardest school years, either of us, I'm sure, have been through. But we both were doing very different things, and we each had our part to play. And we each were lending our strengths where we could and trying to solve problems where we could. So, our jobs can really feel thankless a lot of the times. And when we're looking for a thank you or kind of a, pat on the back, we're living that first mountain life. We're wanting to get that credit. We're wanting to sometimes even, take it easy on ourselves, when things get hard. Just saying it's too much, I'll push this to tomorrow. But sometimes there are things that are just, too important to push to tomorrow. But the thing that's been helping me is really reminding myself that God's right there with you. He sees, He knows you, He knows what you're doing. That's really all that counts. In the end, that's That's all that counts. God, he's the ultimate boss. And he's really trying to work through us, to again, he planted this garden, he installed work, we're here to kind of cultivate it, make it just a little bit better, each day. So that day, I was also reminded of a lyric, thinking back to worship from what Rhiannon shared 2 weeks ago. A lyric that we've sung in church before. I've certainly played it a few times, on my headphones, but I started playing with the lyrics a little bit, and it kind of felt silly, but it really did get me through. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my work battles. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. So let's be reminded of who God is this morning. Let's be surrounded by him in our homes, in our work, in all that we do. Look at what he has shown us. He's shown us that he can provide our daily bread when we build a relationship with him. He shows us that we can rest on the Sabbath. And in Matthew 11:28-30, Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." While I was preparing this talk, I looked around for what's been said about work and faith. I came upon a simple yet powerful quote from Dr. Tim Keller. Being a Christian leads us to see our work not as merely a way to earn money, nor as primarily a means of personal advancement, but truly a calling to serve God and love our neighbor. I want to challenge myself and to challenge all of us to think about our relationship with work and our relationship with God. Not to shame any of us, not to offer any quick way to the top of the second mountain. God really just wants us to connect with him, and he wants us to partner with him in our work. That partnership can bring more meaning, can bring more fruit, it can bring more peace in our lives. So, is God part of your work week? Is he a part of how you do your work and who you do it for? Does he factor into why you do what you do? Proverbs 16:3 tells us, "Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans." I think put another way is use the gifts God has given you to take action and make daily decisions at work. He will take care of the outcomes. And through your relationship with God, you'll be able to respond with grace to whatever may happen. This is the path to the second mountain of life, where we honor God through our work and surrender to his will.